Alrighty guys, as the kid bringing us into the Dragon Ball Legends TOP guide video. So we're going to be hopping into TOP season number 6, and let's go ahead and just do a quick little recap of last season, just in case you guys do keep up with these. So if you guys do remember, last season I went ahead and I started my venture off with movies, and I don't necessarily have the best movies team. Like, I have a decent amount of stars on these units, right, because stars do matter incredibly when it comes to this game mode, right, especially with this game mode. Like, I think stars matter more in this game mode than in PvP itself sometimes. So as you can see right here, a lot of these units do have high stars. Like my Trunks has high stars, my Bojack has high stars. The one that pretty much doesn't have the high stars here is Goku and the L of Gohan, of course. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, just 100% being transparent with you guys, I did die. Like, I think I died like around, like a little bit before the first boss and stuff like that. I came close to dying a second time before the last boss. So it still goes to show that even if you get right there like on death's door and stuff like that, you can still complete the board. You can still go ahead and get into the top 6K. As you guys can see right here, I was actually able to place like 2,080 something, 89 or something like that, right? That's not bad at all. Like, especially because I'm not really playing this game mode to go ahead and get too high in the ladder. I'm not necessarily, I don't want to be like rank 100 or above 100 or anything like that, right? I don't think to me, it doesn't really matter too much. I just personally want to go after the crystals and stuff like that, right? But one thing that I do want to let you guys know is that this Bojack is incredibly good. Like, this Bojack was like the only one that went ahead and he basically was able to keep almost full health throughout my entire run. This Gohan proved to be incredibly good, even at 3 stars. I would say Great Saiyan Man really got bodied. He was like my first unit to die. He died like on the 3rd turn or something like that. This Trunks, he's decent as well, but he gets hit hard pretty easily. And this Metal Cooler really surprised me. This Metal Cooler, I think he shouldn't have surprised me. I see him on a lot of regeneration teams. Like, very, very good. Goku, he actually did really, really good as well, and so did the Fury Broly. So that was basically a little bit of a recap from last season right there. I went ahead and stepped out of my comfort zone, and I'm glad that I did. I tried out this movies team. You know, it worked. I still was able to get the 1K CC and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these new characters coming into TOP season number 6 and what they do. Alright, so the first character that I wanted to talk about, the one that I actually don't have and I wish I did have, is this Goku. This Goku is going to be an absolute monster on Saiyans. If you guys do have him, I heavily advise starring him up specifically for TOP, because when we go ahead and look at his TOP ability, even though he is an extreme unit and he only has 1 unique, he still has this fantastic ability where at the start of the 2nd turn, allies in range will restore health by 5%, as well as getting a 15% to damage inflicted. That's pretty much enough said. The only thing that really holds him back here is that he only buffs the Frieza saga, right? That's it. Even if we display him at maximum stats, he's only going to buff Frieza saga, nothing else. So you guys might even want to consider bringing a Frieza saga team if you guys do have him at high stars. The next unit I wanted to go ahead and talk about, obviously I do not have him as well, is this Frieza. So I definitely, you guys are going to have to let me know in the comments down below if you guys are actually using this guy or not, because I'm not too sure how much of a difference it's going to make between him being at 3 stars or 6 stars, how well he does in TOP, but I feel like he has some pretty good abilities as well. So if there is a Sun Family member on the enemy team, he's going to immediately upgrade his special move to his ultimate ability, which is pretty nice, right? So he doesn't need to absolutely be on that yellow square in the TOP battle to go ahead and upgrade it. And he also has a damage inflicted, he has a damage cut, he gets an extra damage bonus right here. This one I don't really think it's too important, because this basically depends on how many allies remaining. He's going to get increased buffs and stuff like that. But I guess this is important to note that if you're facing off against this guy, if you're running into this guy as your opponent AI, I definitely wouldn't advise saving this guy for last, because he's going to be getting a bunch of buffs and stuff like that. This is really good though. Before receiving a Blast Arts attack, health is 30% or lower for allies in range. He performs a cover change, and look at the area that he covers ahead of him, to the left and right and below him, which is really damn good. And then at the start of the 2nd turn, he's able to activate his green card basically. He puts a debuff on the enemy team, all of the enemies by the way, and he gets a 25% to his own special move gauge. So you're going to increasingly see him generate these blue cards and stuff like that, which is really nice. And then after receiving an attack and his own health is 60% or below, he has a self-heal, which is amazing, right? And then so he buffs powerful opponent, but once you do get him to 3 stars, he's able to pick up the Frieza Force. And at 6 stars, I do believe, or actually I don't know. and then only then at 6 stars is he going to be able to pick up the Frieza Saga. So that's something very important to note as well. Alright, the next unit is Appule. So this is a free-to-play unit. We are going to be able to get him up in stars eventually. I don't really expect everyone to have him at high stars right now. I'm not exactly too sure what you actually have to do to get him to high stars right now, besides the missions and the daily stage, right? But he has this ability, which is pretty nice. That's very important to note. Is this at the end of the turn, allied tag Frieza Force or tag minions gets a 10% to damage inflicted as well as a 10% to critical rate. So like a miniature version of Bardock in a way, right? But that's to all allies. In ToP, Bardock can only buff a Super Saiyan directly placed below him, not the whole board. So this guy, I would say that that ability is even better than that. And then he has the Z ability, which is specifically tied to minions or Frieza Force or Frieza Saga. So he definitely would be more than likely on Frieza Saga or Frieza Force. The last unit that I wanted to go and talk about is Captain Ginyu. It's not necessarily a new unit, but he did get a new unique ability. So when these extremes, when they come out and they're in ToP, they only have one unique ability until they get a Zenkai. So this guy did get a Zenkai, and it's decent. It's not bad at all. So he gets a 10% of damage inflicted, and he restores his own health by 2%. So that's pretty good. At the start of turn, that's not too bad at all, right? He's going to be able to, or actually, is that useless?
Are you dumb? Pardon me?
I suppose. I have no clue, bro. That actually might be useless. But anyways, disregarding that, he does have Frieza Force or Frieza or Ginyu Force buffs, right? 15% to damage inflicted for 1 turn, as well as key recovery for 1 turn. So you're going to be able to go ahead and this is at the end of each turn, right? So this is going to go ahead and make sure that your allies are attacking quicker than your enemies. So not bad at all. Alright, so now getting into the team aspects of this, the first team I wanted to go ahead and show you guys is Sagas from the movies, because of course I was running Sagas from the movies just last season, so I think it's fair to go ahead and start off with them for this season. So I have literally the rank 1 player right here on the right hand side of the screen, and this is the team that he has built, and I kind of replicated it on my own right here. Obviously I do not have the same amount of stars as him and stuff like that, but the most important thing, the reason why this guy is rank 1, I can tell you guys right now, is because if you look right here on my screen, this entire Sagas from the movies team is in tier 1. Literally every single unit, all 8 of them. And so that's why he's gaining an incredible amount of points. And not only that, it's not just for looks either. It's not just for the points itself. These are really good units. Almost all of these units right here can heal. And then one of the glue that basically holds us down together is this guy. Unfortunately, this guy cannot heal, but he has a really, really good support system right here, where he's able to go ahead and buff all of his episode Sagas from the movies or powerful opponent allies by 25% and give them key recovery as well for 2 turns, meaning that they're going to attack quicker, right? They're going to be ahead of the line in terms of like just attacking, attack order specifically, right? And then at the start of the 3rd turn, he's able to go ahead and give him his health, or he's going to be able to give himself 50% to own damage, and he's going to get a damage cut, he's going to increase his own key recovery, and he's going to put a debuff on the enemy team. So he's extremely good, especially if you have him at high stars. And, you know, but he does have 2 Zenkai units in the form of Turles and the metal cooler, the red metal cooler, right? So this is where I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to be straight up with you guys. You guys need to find some replacements if you guys don't have these units at an incredible amount of stars, right? If you guys have this movie Frieza right here, he does buff movies. So if you want to replace the cooler, if you don't have him, he has some pretty good abilities as well. And, you know, he might not be able to heal himself, but I still feel like he's a decent option. And he is tier 1 if you truly want to just stick to tier 1 units, right? And that being said, like I always say, don't be afraid to dip into tier 2. Like, please do not be afraid to dip into tier 2. This yellow unit right here is absolutely amazing. This transforming Super Saiyan 2 Gohan is probably like one of the best units you can run in here, especially if you have him at high stars. And then this Bojack. I was just telling you guys how good this Bojack is. If you have him at a good decent amount of stars, like, he will survive to the bitter end. I promise you guys. He's so good. He does so much damage. He gets a guaranteed like absolute monstrous attack on the 2nd turn, right, with his awakened arts and stuff like that, right? Metal cooler is also a really good option here, right, if you don't want to run the cooler movie Goku. And I would even go as far as to say, even look at tier 3 specifically for this unit. Maybe, right? This is a big maybe right here. But the main reason why I want to go ahead and say this is just because this is your healer. This is your general healer. But again, I guess this is mitigated by the fact that majority of these movie units can heal on their own. But I really do love the fact that he's a revival unit. He can come back with 70% HP, and the supportive capabilities are nothing to scoff at either. At the start of the third turn, he heals everyone by 1%, gives them all 30% to special move gauge charge rate for 2 turns, and 15% to damage inflicted for 2 turns, right? That's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, Broly was tier 3. This Broly was tier 3 last season, and I still brought him, and I still was able to make it into the top 6K. So that's where you have to ask yourself, do you want to be at the tippy top of the leaderboard, or do you want to just go ahead and make the bare minimum, get the top 6K, get your CC, get out, and do it again? Because if it's option B, then go ahead and do what you got to do. If you have more stars on these units right here in tier 3, I'm not saying make a full tier 3 team, but definitely go ahead and gauge all of your options here. Alright, for the next team that I'm going ahead and talk about is Android. So this is actually going to be the team that I'm personally going to run. Again, on the right hand side of the screen, I have the rank 2 player and his Android setup. We can go ahead and talk about them and how they differ from each other. So basically, for my setup, I do like running this Android 21, the blue one, right? Because she does offer an incredible amount of support. I really like this unit a lot, and she's never really featured in tier 1, but for this season, she is tier 2, and I'll 100% still take that. Like I said, I do want to go ahead and just get in the top 6K so I can get my crystals, and she's going to help me do that because she does have all these buffs. Look at this, a 15% to special move gauge charge rate for androids, right? 30% to key recovery for regeneration. I do have some regeneration members sprinkled onto my androids team with Cell and with the other purple 21. And then a 20% to damage inflicted by tagged girls, which obviously Android 18 fits that criteria, right? And then so basically what my strategy is I keep her in the middle right here so she can get the buffs to all of the squares that she provides, which is the top of her herself, the left and the right, and the bottom. And then this red Android 18, as you guys all know, is a healer, right? Is a healer. And so I make sure to go ahead and put her in a good position where usually this block right here is the main person that I want to heal, the one diagonally to her right, and then to the left is usually where I keep 16. Even if 16 necessarily doesn't need the heals, I always have him right there in that corner. That way he can go ahead and cover change for the red 18 because he has this ability right here where before receiving a blast arts attack, allies in range, he performs a cover change and reduces that attack by 60%. He gets a 60% damage cut on it, so that's really good, right? And so that's basically the strat right here. And then once I start getting a little bit lower with the red 18, I end up subbing out that blue 21, and I'll just go ahead and move the Cell under her. That way, basically the Cell will be able to cover change and be able to protect her in a way like that, right? As you can see right here in the picture that I have to the right, this guy's running a similar setup, but he opted to go for the more points-orientated team. This is probably why he's ranked number 2, right? Every single unit that he has is in tier 1. So you can see right here as I'm scrolling down, I have it filtered by tier 1. This Cell is in tier 1. Let's actually see what he does here. So he gets a 50% to damage inflicted that's instant. And then if the unit is a Saiyan, he gets another 50% to damage. And then at the second turn, he's able to basically do the solar flare, right? He's able to get the solar flare off. He inflicts the enemy with can attack for 1 turn, as well as giving him attribute downgrade. But his Z ability is just so bad. It's only 28% to blue. Only blue. Nothing else but blue. And I can understand why you wanted to bring him in, just because of the fact that he is tier 1. But that's just not worth it to me. And then for his red unit, he does have this guy. I don't have him at a whole lot of stars. I only have him at 6 stars. So I don't think his stats will hold up for me. And so that's why I went ahead and just went with the option of bringing the units that I have right here. I already have a red unit. I'm not too worried about many yellows, right? Because I only have 1 purple unit right here. So I don't have to worry about that too much. So that's basically my setup right here compared to this setup. You guys can go ahead and mix and choose. Like I said, I do like dipping into tier 2. That's how I always am. So tier 2, I do have Android 21 blue and then the Android 21 purple, who's able to heal herself as well. So I really like that aspect a lot. And tier 3 that's where it gets a little bit, yeah, so you have like no units in tier 3, tier 4, or in tier 5. So you're pretty much solid with androids, whatever route you choose. As long as you get a good chunk of tier 1s in there, you make sure you have your healer, you make sure you have 16. I am going to put out a disclaimer. You do need these Zenkais. You need them at a high Zenkai level as well. Otherwise, this team is not exactly going to perform. Alright, for the next team that I wanted to go ahead and talk about is two teams actually that are very, very similar to each other, so I went ahead and just included them both, is LOE or Frieza Saga. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't really find a Frieza Saga team on the actual leaderboard, so we're going to go ahead and just have to settle for an image of the LOE right here. So I basically emulated it right here. You see this other yellow unit that I have just as a placeholder, right, in terms for the LF Frieza, because I do not have the LF Frieza, but every unit I do have right here. But you can see basically what I've done here, what I've opted for is on the backup units, instead of the Frieza, the green Frieza, the golden Frieza, I went ahead and swapped them out for Metal Cooler. I actually put in both of the Metal Coolers right here, right? So this is another one of those teams that are very, very premium. You can see right here in the image that I have pulled up, he has a lot of stars on his units, right? You know, he has a Zenkai 7 cooler. I would say if he had the Zenkai 7 red cooler, that would be, obviously that would be really, really amazing as well. And even if you could also replace the full power Frieza if you had the Zenkai yellow final form Frieza, right? There's a lot of options that you actually have with this team right here, as long as you have them at a high amount of stars. And we were just talking about the brand new Frieza and the stuff that he can do, how he's able to go ahead and he has a heal on him. He's able to do more damage to Sun Family by upgrading his own ultimate ability, as well as just he gets increased card or the rates, right? The rates. But I do like this Frieza a lot. I'm not gonna lie. This is something that I always rave about, because he does, if a blast card is used on him, right, before receiving a blast, he activates his green card, and after activating the green card, he gets 100% to his special move gauge. So you could possibly be getting multiple blue cards off with him, I believe. Or I'm not too sure if it's able to trigger multiple times, but at the very least, you might be able to get one blue card off of every single round, right? So that's pretty good. You have a lot of support on this team from not only from Cooler, but from the final form, or for the LF Frieza, right? And then these Metal Coolers that I have on backup, they are known for being really, really good as well. You always see them getting ran and regen. So, you know, you have a lot of good options here. Now, talking about a Frieza, or actually, before we actually move on, you can see right here too, all of these units are pretty much tier 1, right? All of them are tier 1 except for the Metal Cooler right here, or for the green Metal Cooler specifically. And if you really wanted to run a full tier 1 team, you can go ahead and just swap out the green Metal Cooler for the green golden Frieza, like this guy in the image has Element. But let's go ahead and talk about Frieza Saga as well. Alright, so going back to Frieza Saga, this is something else I wanted to talk about. I think if you have like I don't know, I'm pretty sure this is kind of like these teams are a little bit more difficult because they're more niche, right? They're definitely more niche. I don't think there's a ton of LOE units. I don't think there's a ton of LOE mains, period. And then even for Frieza Saga, you definitely need the two new units, which is the EX Goku and the LF Frieza, and both of those units are kind of hard to pull. But if you guys do have those guys, and you guys have a decent amount of stars on them, this guy can also be really good on a Frieza Saga team, because his Z ability, or his Tournament of Power Z ability, he gets 26% to Frieza Saga, right? Which both of those units are a part of, right? Depending on how many stars you have, you will get a 26% buff to him. And then he has his ultimate, or the ultra ability, where you at the start of the battle, per allied Frieza Saga gets 5% to blast damage, 5% to ki recovery, and then after receiving an attack, he upgrades his own special move to the Dirty Fireworks version of his special move, right? He has pretty basic unique abilities, 40% to damage inflicted, 15% damage cut, but he has a really good cover change. Look at this. Him and the LF Frieza alone basically cover the whole board, right? Of cover changing for your units if they get below 30%. He's able to do a cover change on a strike attack, and I think the Frieza covers on a blast attack, so that's a really good combination. And then at the start of the second turn, he gets 50% to damage inflicted, as well as 30% to next special move damage inflicted, and he also gets plus 50% to special move gauge, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty good. So every other turn, you are guaranteed to get a blue card at the very least, right? At the minimum. So that's pretty good. We already talked about the EX Goku, how he's pretty good as well. And then we have the new Frieza Force members. Like, this guy can act as a support for you, right? He can act for a support for you 100%. And then even the new Appule, he could act as a support for you as well. But I do believe he's tier 2. Okay, so he's not even tier 2. The new Appule is tier 3, which is unfortunate. So I probably wouldn't even bother running him. overall. Unfortunately, even this free-to-play Goku is a tier 3, right? So Frieza Saga might be lacking a little bit in that sense. Like I said, these are more of the niche teams, but they could still work. They could still get you up there, right? Because you could even bring in both of these purple units right here, and they'd be Zenkai buffing each other, right? The EX Krillin and the Ginyu, Captain Ginyu, right? Because they have good Z abilities right here too. He does Frieza Force, which not necessarily buffs up Krillin, but Krillin does buff up Frieza Saga, which would be pretty beneficial to the rest of the units, right? All right, so before we move on to the next team, I also wanted to quickly take a look at this guy who's also, he lies in tier 1. And his Zenkai ability is not bad at all, or his unique ability. So at the start of the battle, allied tag Frieza Force gets a plus 20% to damage inflicted. So if you want to run Frieza Force or Lineage of Evil, like, you have some decent amount of options. Once again, this is a niche team. This is just to give you more options. All right, for the next team that I want to go ahead and talk about, which again, I feel like this is a really, really comfortable team. A lot of people are probably going to be using this. This is definitely the most, I feel like this is one of the teams that has never left the meta in terms of ToP. You will always see this team in the leaderboards, and it's going to be Regeneration. I think no one is surprised here. So again, we have the rank 7 player, and he actually doesn't have all, this proves my point. This basically solidifies my point that you don't need a full team of just tier 1 units. So you can see right here, I have this filtered out, and this guy only has about 3 units in tier 1, literally like 3 units, because you go to tier 2, that's where most of his units reside right here. You can see 5 of them, a whopping 6 of them if you include the Zenkai Cell. I don't have the Zenkai Cell on my backup right here, right? But we can go back to tier 1 right here and see what units he does have. So he has the Demon King Piccolo. Well, I really don't see this guy a lot in tier 1, both of the Demon King Piccolos actually. So the purple one and the yellow one, so that's a huge plus if you do have him Zenkai boosted, right? Because that's going to be absolutely massive. The Janemba, generally really good. The purple 21, so now we can swap over back to tier 2. The purple 21 heals herself. I think that's pretty much enough said right there. I think she's pretty good. I think she's pretty solid. She takes a while to ramp up, and she has a low-key restore speed, but that's okay. And then we have Super Baby 2, right? Super Baby 2. He's tier 2, but this guy is just absolutely amazing. He's the best healer on Regen has to offer right here. He's definitely, in terms of healing, I think he's better than Fat Boo, but I still love them both. I think they're still very important members of the team. And then this guy as well, because he's able to get a guaranteed blue card on the second turn, right? When he transforms and stuff like that, he also has the ability to heal himself as well. I remember when ToP first started, when I was barely in S League, I would run this guy at 2 stars and still do good with him. But obviously, I do advise you guys having more stars, because more stars is going to produce better results overall. And then as for the backup, I opted, instead of the green 21, I can understand why this guy wanted to bring in green 21, because he has him at 14 stars. But this Buhan is a really solid option, because he can go ahead and mitigate attacks, period, right? Because he has that bubble shield where he basically uses that green card. So before receiving a strike or a blast card, he activates his green card and nullifies it entirely, and he can also heal himself. So that's a really massive plus right there. And then instead of the Zenkai Cell, I do have Bootanks. I just feel like Bootanks is amazing. And even then, so you can see he has a lot of tier 2 units. He has more tier 2 units than he does tier 1 units. But I would even take it further and to say even bringing this guy would be solid. Like if you don't have one of the Zenkai Piccolos, maybe go ahead and bring this guy in. And even for the Zenkai Piccolos, if you don't have one of them, at the very least, you can go ahead and bring in this guy right here because he is tier 2. He's tier 2 and he can still put in work. And maybe you think Bootanks is a little bit squishy, go ahead and bring in this guy, our Android 21. This gal is what I should say. You have it's just too versatile. This team is just absolutely insane. It's just, you have so many options with it that it's almost hard to fail with this team. Alright, so the last thing that I wanted to mention is that I'm going to go ahead and say you don't absolutely need the most optimal teams to go ahead and get to top 6K in ToP. I'm going to go ahead and put up this image that I have from the rank 1 player from last season. Literally the rank 1 player, and look at the team that he was running. Now, at first glance, you can kind of tell that he has a really stacked hybrids team. But look who is in the middle of this hybrids team. Because look at, you have this Android 18 healing, the Gohan, both of the Gohans, right? The other healer Gohan, the revival Gohan, and the movie Gohan right here. The main thing that really makes this work, or really makes it stand out, even though this Red 18 doesn't have any buffs, is because if you guys don't know, that Blue Movie's Gohan, at the first turn, he directs every bit of damage at himself, right? So every attack is going to come directly his way. And so I think that's what his strategy was. Let him take all of those hits, but he will constantly keep healing him. He's going to heal him every single turn with Android 18 with the red one. And on the third turn, he's going to get a little bit of extra healing from the Revival Gohan right here, right? And obviously it worked, right? He hit rank 1 for a reason. Like, this is literally end of season, and he was rank 1. And no one actually, I saw no one else have this team. Like, literally no one else. So sometimes don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and stuff like that, right? Don't be afraid to try something new, especially if you don't have the most comfortable option right here. Yeah, I'm not saying you guys have to go ahead and hit rank 1. You guys are just trying to make it to the top 6K and up, right? So that being said, that's going to go ahead and wrap up the video for today, boys, or boys and girls. And if you guys need any more help with ToP, definitely feel free to join the Discord server. And I have it linked in the description down below. Make sure you check out the timestamps too. I probably should have said that in the beginning of the video. But we can always go ahead and help you out there as well. So that being said, if you guys enjoyed the content, definitely let me know by leaving a like, a comment, or maybe even consider hitting that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later!